In this video, I'm going to show you how to write and produce music faster. So I was just composing a new music track, and this music track is aimed for documentaries, wildlife, that kind of style. It's really in the category of world music. And I want to show you very quickly how it sounds, and then I'm going to break down exactly the steps that you can follow in order to compose and produce music much faster. So here we go. So on this particular music track, I'm using a few elements, nothing earth-shattering here when it comes down to the production, and the music itself will really mix really fast if you follow these steps that I'm going to show you here right now. So here we are, and I'm going to play you the whole track first, and then we're going to break it down, all the elements that make this track. Okay, so here we go. Goes on a loop, which brings me to my first method, if you will, of composition. I like to work on a loop. I've been doing this for some time now, and what it means is that I just lock myself in a loop and start writing music. That's the very principle behind the method that I have implemented over the years in my career. Now, how does this music track was created? It was created by the following. This is the very first instrument that I introduced in this particular track. And I started with a piano, only 2 chords. So step number 1 will be decide what chord progression you're going to be working on. In this case, I'm only using 2 notes, or 2 chords if you will, and it sounds something like this. 2 chords. So that's my chord progression. It's 2 chords and it's over and over again the same thing. Quite boring, isn't it? So then I decided to introduce a mandolin, and I'm using Spitfire's Audio Labs mandolin here. You can download that as well and use the same instrument if you wanted to, and this is what it will sound like. And I created from here, the very first step will be to decide what chord progression are you going to be using. Okay, and I like to go after the chord progression and know what key I'm in. And if you're not a musician, you can still do this by ear. But once I decided what chord progression I'm working in, I will decide with to go with a melody or a motif, if you will. In this case, I introduced the mandolin, and it will sound something like this. Kind of like an arpeggio kind of thing going with the mandolin. Then I introduce a charango. So that's where I get into the territory of a little bit of a world music. I was thinking in the beginning maybe this could turn into a Latin track, but then the music itself will tell you where you need to go. So I introduce a charango doing the same thing, and it will sound like this. Again, the charango is from Spitfire's Audio as well, Labs. This is free. You can just download this and just use those sounds. They're really, really good quality. The charango is doing the same kind of thing, and it sounds a little bit off in terms of the tuning with the mandolin at the same time. And I pan them slightly to the left and to the right to create a little bit of wide stereo field and separation. So after that, what I do is that I want to enrich more the melody. So I have because the mandolin and the charango, they're really playing the same chord progression, but they're not a melody per se. Okay, so I want to build upon that. So the very first step again is the chord progression and then melodies or a motif, something that it will be like kind of like a hook. So I decided to introduce a tremolo. Again, this is the mandolin tremolo from Spitfire's Audio sample, and it sounds something like this. this point, I'm already mixing and deciding where things are gonna go in the stereo field. The music will tell you exactly what it needs in itself, if you will. So when it comes down to production music, for licensing, really we're composing, we're arranging, and we're mixing at the same time. The mastering is really just bringing the levels up a little bit and to be competitive out there, or at least to bring it in the right ballpark when it comes down to the levels and the volumes. So at this point, I'm already deciding if it needs a little bit of an EQ here and there. I've cleaned up a little bit of the frequencies, but really it's very minimal. It's just for me to get an idea where am I going with this track. After the tremolo, I decided to go and create some kind of rhythm. I need to have some kind of sense of where this is going. So that will be step number 3. Decide what kind of rhythm you're going to be using, what kind of drums, what kind of percussion, what's the heartbeat of this track. So I decided to go with a Latin percussion, because at this point I'm still thinking that it's going to go the Latin way, and it didn't necessarily went that way, but at the same time it does work with the track. So this is what it will sound like. So right there already gives me a sense of like, okay, it's going somewhere, it has some kind of rhythm, it has some kind of beat. I added as well some a loop of a shaker, just to give it a little bit more of a taste there. So it just gives me a little bit of a foundation of the rhythm. So again, the 3 steps to start composing music as fast as possible is to decide what chord progression are you going to be working on. In this case, I'm only using 2 chords, so you can keep it very, very simple. Then step 2 is to decide what kind of melodies and motifs are you going to be using. That's the hook or the ear candy, if you will. And again, I can take it even further after this. But number 3 will be the rhythm. So chords, melodies, and rhythm, or drums, if you will, percussion. After this, I will decide to create a little bit of atmosphere when it comes down to, I can put some strings or something to create a little bit of something going on underneath. I decided to go for this kind of strings, nothing earth-shattering here again. Very, very underneath, you can't really hear it, okay? But that's the way I build it, and I build it like this, so you can barely hear it. If you're wearing headphones, you can probably hear it in the background. I put as well some trumpets that are doing the same thing, and they're both left and right hard pan, just to create that atmosphere. I'm presenting an idea of a musical composition that it has to be simple yet effective when working with a video, working with in this case I'm still thinking in the world category. I wanted to go Latin. It's not going Latin for me at this point, and it's going more like a documentary for wildlife, animals, a safari somewhere in Africa. So I'm thinking as well in terms of colors. I'm thinking in terms of yellow, brownish, very earthy colors as well. And I like to think in those terms, in those abstract concepts, so I can visualize where this music is going. So after this, I will create, I have a cymbal roll here. This is nothing, this is really the background as well. But it will sound something like this. And this is when it's going through the second verse, if you will. Very, very subtle, but it's there and it does something to it. And I'm not really creating anything really drastic. I still want it to be open. After that, I said that I wanted some more stabs of trumpet, because I wanted to take. I'm still here resisting resisting what I wanted to go to. I don't want the music to control it, and I'm still resisting the temptation to let it go, because I still wanted to go Latin, but it's not going Latin at this point. But I'm still working with those instruments, and I introduced some trumpet stabs in this case, and these trumpet stabs are really again, these are Spitfire's audio. This is from a different plugin. This is not Labs, but this is from Leah Bertucci. I did a video about this particular library. I think it's really affordable. I can't remember how much I paid for this, but I think it's like 29 euros. So the stabs are really good. I really, really like it. And it sounds something like this. pretty much that will be actually like a melody, but this is like a second melody, if you will. I will introduce, as I am arranging this track, I will introduce this down the line at some point. And these instruments will appear as I am showing it to you, pretty much. I might just start with the melodies of the mandolin and the charango with the piano, and maybe arrange it like that with a little bit of percussion, and then introduce all the elements. And then finally, I like to add the bass at the very end, and this is what it will sound like all together at this point. And the bass is being played. I'm actually playing the bass, so it's a little bit more organic. And the trumpets as well, they're not being quantized. I just play them and be very, very loose. So this is what it will all sound together, again, from the start. So there you go. That's how I compose music. I wrote this piece of music this morning, pretty much. Very quickly, tried to put a few elements and not really overdo it, and that's the difficult part when it comes down to composing music for licensing. And it's really just, and I wanted to do it intentionally with just 2 chords, so it's not too complicated. Obviously the arrangement is going to be easier once I get out of the loop mode. I will just have an intro, a verse, kind of like a chorus, where that will probably be where the trumpets will come in. And then from that point, just kind of develop the track. But really, as a whole, this is what it's going to be sounding at its peak. And that's what you want to do when you're composing on a loop. You start with very few elements, a few instruments here and there. You start mixing the track already and really producing what the track is going to sound at the end. And what happens is that eventually the arrangement becomes easier. So once you start composing on a loop, and if it sounds okay in a 4-bar loop or whatever loop you decide, 8-bar loop or a 12-bar loop or whatever loop you want to make, if it sounds good like that, that means that when you arrange it, everything, all the pieces will fall in place, and you can start deciding where those melodies are going to go in. If you're going to add like a second melody, really the trumpets is like the main motif, but at the same time the tremolo mandolin was really important aspect, and that will shine once I start arranging this track, meaning that I will probably do that in the intro to really create the scene of where this is going. And the trumpets is just really once the energy has been built up from the ground up, and then really introduce a new element, because you always have to introduce new melodies and what is called like ear candy. So, and this works only if you have a good foundation when it comes down to the chord progression and the arrangement. And the melody is just really like sprinkling things here and there just to complement the track. It's a very simple concept. It's a very simple strategy to start composing on a loop. This is how I do it. This is a musical style or a music genre that I don't usually write. So this blueprint, you can use it on any style of music, really. But you know, I don't usually go and sit down and say like, hey, I'm gonna start writing some kind of world music for a safari or for a documentary or for wildlife kind of reality show or whatever. So I just wanted to do this as well as a case study for myself and try to push myself to see how can I perform under, okay, I'm writing with some plugins that, you know, they sound fantastic, but I could easily grab the acoustic guitar and kind of recreate the same thing. And a little bit more organic, I guess, but instead of being sampled. But these samples, they sound so good, and as soon as you start playing them, it creates that world type of a sound. So go and check it out, the mandolin and the charango from Spitfire's Audio's Lab. This is free. And the other library as well that I've been using, really affordable, 29 quid or euros. And you know, they have some really, really good trumpets. I particularly like this trumpet that I was using, and it just creates a nice atmosphere. So anyway, this is a quick video. I might do more videos like this of how to compose and how to produce music faster and quicker. And this is all being done with a blank session. I don't use templates. I like to start everything with like there's nothing there, so I don't know where I'm going, and that's the beauty of it. So but the music itself will tell you how it needs to be mixed. If you listen, once you start writing, the music will tell you this needs to be louder, this needs to be quieter as you're composing the track, and the track will mix itself really as you're writing it. And this is the same with the production. The production will tell you where's it going. In the beginning, I started with this music track, and I wanted to put it really towards the Latin side of it, and but it kept pushing me to world music, but more specific, to the point that I said like, well, this sounds like like a natural documentary, like wildlife documentary. That's what it sounded like to me. I played it to my wife. She said, I ask her always, what does this sound like, you know? But I have to allow the music to tell me where it needs to go. If I pay attention and listen to what I'm writing, the music will tell you, or the music will tell me where it needs to go. And you are the one who's deciding where the pieces fit, but the music will tell you where are you going with this selection of chords and melodies and instruments. And that's really important for you to know. Sometimes the problems with composers is that you're forcing something too much in the wrong direction with the wrong instruments, the wrong melodies, and that's why it sounds bad, because it's not supposed to be complicated. It's supposed to be very easy. Anyways, I hope this video finds you well. I hope this video is helpful to you. Leave in the comment section what you think. And you know, it's just one of those things. We all have our styles of compositions, but I really would love to hear your take on this type of videos. I might do more videos like this of composition and production, insights, if you will, arrangement, and how fast can you work on this. And if you're somebody that is new to music licensing or to royalty-free libraries, download my guide, free guide, link in the description. And as always, rock and roll, and here's to your success.